says it is. Some of these schools have a term that's 6 weeks long. So you sign up, you turn over your money, you spend 4 weeks there, you fulfilled 60% of the term. If you leave, they keep the money.
And you end up with the student loan.
And you got the student loan. And by the way, we might add, as the Senator fully knows, these student loans are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. They are around your neck forever.
I might also add that I think that Congress made a serious error in saying that the private loans from the same schools will be treated the same way. Exactly. They are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. Right. Here you have someone who could be 19 or 20 years old signing up for $4,000, $5,000, or $10,000 worth of student loans. Mm-hmm. Have they really thought and reflected on the fact that that debt they've incurred is going to be with them for a lifetime? And at some point in their lives, when they can no longer borrow money to go to school and they still are facing default on their student loan, they can have their income tax returns attached.
That's right.
They could be prohibited from federal employment.
That's right. They
cannot discharge this loan in bankruptcy. They're stuck with it. And that poor girl living in her parents' basement with a $90,000 loan from Westwood College, a rip-off institution, is stuck. She has nowhere to turn. Right. And the college president incidentally wrote to me and said, I'm just being totally unfair with him about her experience. Well, I know her experience inside and out. And I said, you want fairness? Mm-hmm. You step in and forgive her loan. Mm-hmm. You pay it back. You got the money. You pay it back. Never heard back from him. Mm-hmm. They don't have the interest of the students at heart. They have the interest of money at heart. And that, unfortunately, is something I'm glad you're investigating, and we will continue to speak out on.
I see it, my friend. I thank you for your great help and work in this area. I just want to add one other thing about this whole thing about the debt of these students. Some have likened what the for-profit school industry is doing to the subprime bubble that we had. But there's a big difference here. Even as bad as the subprime mortgages were, a person who had a house that they couldn't pay for, you could walk away from that house. You could always walk away from it, and that's the end of your debt. Can't walk away from this. No way. That's the difference. This is not a dischargeable debt. And these students, as you point out, they might want to get a loan further on. Maybe they want to really go to a legitimate school. They can't get any money for that. They'll be barred from federal employment. This will follow them for the rest of their lives until they pay it off. And yet, these companies are making almost obscene profits and paying their CEOs tremendous salaries and benefits. And, as I pointed out earlier, many of these for-profit schools are owned by the same investment firms on Wall Street that brought us the subprime problem. Well, I say to my friend, we just cannot let this go. There's too much at stake here, not only for the taxpayers of this country, but for these students, these young kids, these poor kids that are being preyed upon. So whenever you hear these schools say, well, the reason we have this problem is because we're servicing all these poor kids, don't forget, that's who they prey on. That's who they go after, because they get the most Pell Grants and the most student loans out of the poor kids. And then after they get the money, hey, if they leave, no sweat. They don't care. It's not a problem with them. I thank my friend from Illinois.
Thanks, Senator from Iowa. And ask consent if he's concluded. Have you concluded?
I yield.
As he's concluded, I ask consent to speak as if in morning business.
Without objection.
Mr. President, we've been speaking here on the floor about students who are being exploited by for-profit colleges. I think about turning on the television here in Washington, and the ad that just really troubles me shows a lovely young woman who says you can go to college in your pajamas. You don't even have to get out of bed to go to college, and she's got a computer on her bed there. And it strikes me that I don't believe anybody should fall for that, but some must. And they end up signing up for these for-profit schools, getting deep in debt with a worthless diploma when it's all over. And the exploitation of veterans, thank goodness Senator Harkin is bringing that out so that people understand it. I hope that the people who are going to give the patriotic speeches in this chamber about our love of country and our love of the men and women in uniform will love them enough to stand with us and put an end to this exploitation by these for-profit colleges. Speaking on a related topic about young people and their futures, I wanted to speak for a moment here about the DREAM Act, which I just reintroduced, Mr. President. The DREAM Act is legislation which I first introduced 10 years ago, and it came to my office when we were approached by a Korean-American woman in Chicago whose daughter was brought to the United States when the little girl was 2 years old. She was brought on a visitor's visa. Her mom stayed, had other children, and started a business, and eventually she became a naturalized citizen, and the other brothers and sisters were born in the United States. But this young girl that was brought from Korea literally had no papers filed. Well, she turned out to be an amazing concert pianist. She was accepted at the Juilliard School of Music, and when she went to apply and asked about her citizenship, her mom realized she'd never done anything about her daughter's citizenship. So they called our office, we checked in, and the laws of the United States were very clear. They said this young girl, who had never remembered ever being in Korea, was told to return to Korea and wait at least 10 years and try to get back in the United States. I thought that was unfair. It turns out she wasn't alone. Young people all across the United States, brought here by their parents, undocumented, have lived their lives here, have gone to school here, have grown up here, have pledged allegiance to the flag in their classroom here, know no other flag, know no other national anthem, and learn as they're graduating from high school they are without a country. They have no place to go. For many of them, it's a rude awakening after all the effort they put into school to realize they can't do anything. They can't qualify for student loans even at good schools. They can't qualify for a lot of jobs that they might otherwise have if they graduate, engineers, doctors, nurses, teachers, because they have no citizenship. And so I said, let's at least agree on something basic. You shouldn't hold a child responsible for the wrongdoing of their parent. I hope we all agree on that. Secondly, if we've spent so much time and resources in giving this young person a chance to be educated, and they have paid us back by working hard and graduating, isn't it in the best interest of America to give them a chance to help our country move forward? And that's why I introduced the DREAM Act. What it says, if you graduate from high school, if you came to this country under the age of 16, graduate from high school, you have no serious problems with the law, you've had no issues of moral character, and you go on to do one of two things, either serve in our military or finish at least 2 years of college, we'll give you a chance to become legal in America. It's called the DREAM Act. We've been considering it for 10 years. Last December, the senator from New Mexico knows, we voted on it. 55 votes on the Senate floor, a majority, but not enough. There was a Republican filibuster requiring 60 votes. We fell short. We had 3 Republicans join us in voting for it. We lost a handful of Democrats. We're going at it again. I've reintroduced the bill. And the reason I've done it is because the challenge is still there. These young people are still out there, and their lives are still hanging in the balance. I think it's time to give these young people a chance. I don't want to give them amnesty. I want them to earn everything they're going to get. If they have to pay a fine or a tax on the way, so be it. They'll pay it. They're determined to become part of America. These are young people that have become superstars in their own rights. By every account, they are the leaders of tomorrow, but for the fact that they don't have a citizenship or a legal status in America. The DREAM Act is supported by Defense Secretary Robert Gates. He believes it will bring diversity to our armed forces. And General Colin Powell, a man I respect very much, who believes, as I do, that we should give these young people a chance. This DREAM Act would stimulate our economy with a lot of new people in professions that we need to have filled, nurses and teachers and engineers and doctors and lawyers. That's why the DREAM Act has the support of such a diverse group as Rupert Murdoch and the CEOs of companies like Microsoft and Pfizer. Every day I get contacted by these students across America. They keep looking to us and wondering if the day will come when we'll give them their chance. I want to tell you 2 stories very quickly this evening, Mr. President. This is Elier. I'll show you his photo because he's a handsome young man. Elier's parents brought him to the United States in 1994 when he was 4 years old. He's a computer wizard. In high school, he won awards for outstanding achievement in science and information technology. He graduated in the top 5% of his high school class. He was named Tech Prep Student of the Year in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's even started a computer repair business. Now Elier is a 19-year-old honors student at the University of Cincinnati, majoring in information technology with a 3.8 GPA. Here's what one of his professors said about Elier. I've worked with thousands of students over the past 30 years, and Elier Lara is that student who comes along every 10 years or so who just makes your heart sing. Elier sent me a letter, and here's what he said in the letter. Technology and computers, that's where I want to spend the rest of my life. I'm sure I'll find my place on the forefront of the technological frontier, implementing and discovering new technologies of the future. I'm dreaming big, and I'll continue to do so. Now, can we use a person with those talents in America? You bet we can. In Illinois, in New Mexico, in Ohio. Look at leading American technology companies like Google, Yahoo, Intel, and eBay. They were founded by immigrants to the United States. That could be Elier's future and part of America's future. Here's the sad part of the story of this otherwise amazing young man. Elier is in deportation proceedings after having won all the awards for great academic background and demonstrated the kind of leadership we need in America. Our government has officially decided it's time for him to leave. Here's what he said about being deported. I've been living in the United States for the last 14 years of my life. The most important years of my life were spent here in America. I cannot speak, read, or write Spanish. I've never been to Mexico since the day we moved here at the age of 4. Mexico's not my home, and I'm afraid of going back there. So would it be a good use of taxpayers' dollars to deport this young man and send him back to a country where he can barely speak a few words of the language, a place he can never remember? Elier has asked the Department of Homeland Security to grant him a stay, and I'm going to work hard to make sure he gets it. I don't know if I'll be successful. But it makes no sense for us to lose Elier Lara. He has so much to contribute, and we need to have him here. In the past, I've spoken about Oscar Vasquez. Oscar is a student from Arizona. I'd like to update you on Oscar's situations because while we take our time addressing this issue, the lives of these young people go on. Oscar Vasquez was brought to Phoenix, Arizona by his parents when he was a child. He spent his high school years in junior ROTC, as you can see from his uniform. He dreamed of enlisting in the military. Here's a picture of him in his uniform. But at the end of his junior year, a recruiting officer told Oscar he was ineligible to serve in our military because he was undocumented. Oscar found another outlet for his talent. He entered college-level robot competition sponsored by NASA. Oscar and 3 other DREAM Act students, 4 of them, worked for months in a storage room in their high school. They were competing against students from MIT and other top universities. Oscar's team won first place. This is Oscar today. I'll show you his updated photo. Good-looking young man. In 2009, he graduated from Arizona State University with a degree in mechanical engineering. He was one of the top 3 students in his class at Arizona State. Following his graduation, he took a brave step. He voluntarily returned to Mexico, a country where he hadn't lived since he was an infant, and he said, quote, I decided to take a gamble and try to do the right thing. Last year, the Obama administration granted Oscar a waiver to re-enter the United States. Without this waiver, Oscar would have been barred from returning to the U.S. for at least 10 years. He would have been separated from his wife, Carla, and their 2-year-old daughter, Samantha, both of whom were American citizens. When Oscar returned to the United States last year, he did 2 things. He applied for citizenship, and he enlisted in the United States Army. He's in basic training right now. He wants to be an Apache helicopter pilot. In June, Oscar will complete basic training and be sworn in as an American citizen. This story of Oscar Vasquez is a story of America, and it's the story of the DREAM Act. This young man, determined to serve in our military, was turned away as undocumented. He went on and earned a college degree with no help from federal programs, graduating at the top of his class, then went to Mexico and took a chance that he could get back here so he could enlist in the Army, and he made it. Tell me, what is fairness and justice for Oscar Vasquez? That's what the DREAM Act is all about. I introduced this bill in 2001. I've met so many young students like these who are my inspiration to come to this floor regularly and remind those who follow the Senate that this is an issue that will not go away, as these lives will not go away. We need these young people. And I want to call on other students all across America who were lucky enough to be born here in America, who never had to question their own citizenship or future. I'm asking them to stand in solidarity with these young men and women, people who may be sitting next to them in a lecture hall or just across the aisle at a desk. They're just like you, and they need you to stand up for them. If we can have students across America mobilize on behalf of DREAM Act students, we can create a force for change, a force that can pass, even with 60 votes, this DREAM Act in the United States Senate. I need my colleagues to not forget the DREAM Act, to not forget these young people, and not forget what America is all about. Mr. President, just a few steps from here is my office, and right behind my desk is a certificate that I've had displayed as long as I've been in the Senate. It's my mother's naturalization certificate. She was an immigrant, and she came here at the age of 2. She would have been one of the dream kids of her generation. It wasn't until after she was married and had 2 children that she finally took the classes and was naturalized as a U.S. citizen. She was a young mom in East St. Louis, Illinois, and I've got her picture there, right there on the naturalization certificate, to remind me not only who I am, to remind me of her and her journey. Her journey to America, I think, is the same journey these young people made, coming as an infant and striving to succeed in a place which didn't always welcome immigrants. But thank goodness, this nation of immigrants, from time to time, will rally and celebrate our diversity, celebrate the length and breadth of the American family and all the culture and all the ethnic backgrounds that it comprises. I am so proud of this great nation, and I'm proud of who we are and what we are. This nation of immigrants should remember that fine young people like these DREAM Act students deserve a chance, and given a chance, they will continue to prove to America that this is indeed a great and noble experiment in our country, bringing together people from all over the world. Mr. President, I would yield the floor at this point and suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Kaka.
Mr. President, I ask that quorum call be suspended.
Without objection, Senator from Illinois is recognized.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to consideration of calendar number 51 S990.
Clerk will report.
Calendar number 51 S990, a bill to provide for an additional temporary extension of programs under the Small Business Act and so forth and for other purposes.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent that a Landry Snow substitute amendment, which is at the desk, be agreed to. The bill is amended, be read a third time and passed. The motions to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any statements related to the bill be placed in the record at the appropriate places if read.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent the Judiciary Committee be discharged from further consideration of Senate Resolution 184, and the Senate proceed to immediate consideration.
Clerk will report.
S-Res 184, recognizing the life and service of the Honorable Hubert H. Humphrey, distinguished former Senator from the state of Minnesota and former Vice President of the United States, upon the 100th anniversary of his birth.
Without objection, the bill is discharged from committee and the Senate will proceed to the measure.
Mr. President, first I ask unanimous consent that unless I'm already a co-sponsor, I be added as a co-sponsor to this amendment.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent the Sessions Amendment, which is at the desk, be agreed to. Resolution as amended be agreed to. The preamble be agreed to. The motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate. And any statements relating to the matter be placed in the record as if read.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to Senate Resolution 192 submitted earlier today.
The clerk will report.
S-Res 192, designating May 21, 2011 as National Kids to Parks Day.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any statements relating to the matter be placed in the record as if read.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to Senate Resolution 193 submitted earlier today.
The clerk will report.
S.Res. 193, honoring the bicentennial of the city of Astoria.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any statements relating to the matter be placed in the record as if read.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it adjourn until 2 p.m. on Monday, May 23rd, that following the prayer and pledge, the journal of proceedings be approved to date, the morning hour be deemed expired, the time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day, that following any leader remarks, the Senate proceed to a period of morning business until 3 p.m., with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each, and that following morning business, the Senate resume consideration of the motion to proceed to S. 1038, a bill to extend expiring provisions of the Patriot Act under the previous order.
Without objection.
Mr. President, there will be a roll call vote on Monday at 5 p.m. On the motion to invoke cloture on the motion to proceed S. 1038 relating to the Patriot Act. And, Mr. President, if there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it adjourn under the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned until 2 p.m. on Monday.
Today, the nomination of Goodwin Liu to be a judge on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals hit a Senate roadblock. The nomination fell 8 votes short of the 60 yes vote